Good night. Welcome to Medyascope TV's special broadcast for yesterday's local elections in Turkey. The country went to the ballot box yesterday to elect its new mayors. According to the latest data released by the state-run Anadolu News Agency, the ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, has received 44.42% of the votes overall. The final results for Istanbul mayor, however, remain unclear.
Voting ended at 5 p.m. in today's local elections across Turkey. And according to the latest reports, the counting process still continues as of 3 a.m. The latest results, which account for 99.01% of the ballot boxes, show that the ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, is in the lead across the country, although capital Ankara and the third largest province of Izmir were won by the main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP. The results of the race for Istanbul, however, remain disputed at this time. Millions of Turkish citizens flocked to ballot boxes across the country earlier today to elect metropolitan municipality and district mayors, neighborhood heads, and members of provincial and district councils. More than 58 million voters were eligible to take part in the elections. According to the state-run Anadolu Agency, as of 3 a.m., the AKP garnered 44.42% of the votes overall, while the main opposition CHP got 30.07%. AKP's People's Alliance partner National Movement Party MHP received 7.25% of the votes, and the CHP's National Alliance partner Good Party got 7.46%. Pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party HDP, on the other hand, received 4.22% of the overall votes. In Ankara, preliminary results show that National Alliance candidate Mansur Yavaş had garnered 50.6%, with 92% of the votes counted. He was followed by Mehmet Özaseki, the People's Alliance nominee in the capital, with 47.2%. As of 2:45 a.m., Yavaş has won the capital Ankara with 50.89% of the total votes. In Izmir, the country's third largest city, CHP kept its position with its National Alliance candidate Tunç Soyer, getting 58.02% of the votes. Soyer was followed by AKP's People Alliance candidate, former minister Nihat Zeybekçi, with 38.62%. In his balcony speech, President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan said his ruling party has emerged the winner of Turkey's mayoral elections by a wide margin and has dealt a blow to those who tried to bring Turkey to its knees. During the speech, Erdoğan also said, even if we may not have won the metropolitan municipality mayorship, we have won most of the district municipalities. We accept that we have gained the hearts of the people in the places where we won, but we're not successful enough in this regard in the places that we lost, Erdoğan added. Erdoğan further noted that the pro-Kurdish HDP had suffered losses in the country's mostly Kurdish-populated regions. He said that our Kurdish brothers have shown that they will not yield to a terrorist group or to those who have come out of the woodwork with the backing of the terrorist group. Meanwhile, CHP's mayoral candidate for Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu, made several speeches regarding the reported results and the vote counting process. In his latest speech in the CHP's Election Coordinating Center in Istanbul, İmamoğlu said, "The Anadolu Agency has failed to do its job. We have been unable to receive data for the past 3 hours. What the Anadolu Agency has done in this time frame will be a sad mark in Turkey's history. We call on Anadolu Agency officials to do their job. No state institution has the right to deprive people of their right to information. No public institution in Turkey may be politicized." İmamoğlu further stressed that, according to the data obtained by his party, he had won the race for Istanbul mayor. "We are ahead by 29,408 votes. The gap is impossible to close. We are ahead," İmamoğlu said.
And joining us now in the studio is Edgar Şar and Işın Eliçin, who will be commenting on the latest results and updates. Welcome, Işın. Welcome, Edgar.
Thank you.
It's almost 5 a.m. right now here in Turkey, and we're still in the studio continuing our coverage of yesterday's local elections here in Turkey. But before we start talking with the two of you, let's go to Ankara now. Let's go to the main opposition, CHP's headquarters, where we will be joined by Murat Utku. Hi, Murat.
Hi, how are you?
So, well, actually, we're quite tired, if you want us to be honest, but right now we'll be continuing with our English coverage of yesterday's much talked about local elections. So, what's the latest you can tell us from Ankara? How was the general atmosphere in the capital city tonight, and what's the latest, basically?
That was surprisingly empty in the very beginning of night in the headquarters of AKP. Usually, I've just covered here mainly three big elections in front of AKP, and I just seen the statement from the balcony from the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan several times. But this time I saw that, the people just lost their enthusiasm of the supporters of AKP. And then after they announced that Recep Tayyip Erdogan will just make a statement on the balcony again, they just actually rushed to the place, but that was a spontaneous crowd in front of the headquarters. But when we come to the CHP's headquarters in Ankara, we can say that, people came here very cheerfully and they had a very enthusiastic night. It was very crowded in front of this building where we are now, which is CHP's headquarters. Still, it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning. There are some people just watching TV coverage of the elections. Mostly the young people are still waiting to see who won the elections, the mayoral elections in Istanbul. That was their aim to, that is still their aim to just get the results in Istanbul. So we are just now trying to wait. But I can say that, people waited here and made their celebrations for almost 5 hours. Continuously in front of CHP headquarters in Ankara, and I can say that they just made some fireworks, they just have their celebration, and at the same time it is not so far away from the AKP's headquarters. It's almost 2.5 kilometers away from each other, these two headquarters, and we saw also the AKP supporters were chanting loud, and also they were just making some fireworks to celebrate their victory, the overall victory, because they have, as you said, the 44% of the votes. So the thing is now the AKP and CHP supporters just left their places, their celebrations for their homes, but there are still some argues that there are still some problems in their minds if they could win Istanbul or if they could win some other cities as well. So they are now just going to wait for the final results.
Mm-hmm. Seems like some very big and cheerful celebrations were underway tonight in the CHP headquarters in Ankara. Murat, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So despite the celebrations, the final results still remain unclear for the race in Istanbul. Before we start talking more in detail about what's going on in Ankara and Istanbul, let's try to paint a more general picture of the elections.
Sorry, Eileen, can I just tell us some latest news from
Please
what's
go
going
ahead.
on? Yeah, because the CHP, the main opposition, half an hour ago, their representative made the declaration that they won with 28,000 votes in Istanbul. But the latest coming from ruling AK Party's headquarters is that, the AK Party's Istanbul president, the party leader in Istanbul, Bayram Şenerjak, says they won it with 3,870 votes. This is the latest declaration. So there will. So they probably will go to the
Supreme Board of
Elections, and they will. There will be. I think we will wait for maybe 48 hours for getting the latest results.
So it seems like there's definitely a contestation.
Exactly.
There's definitely a contradicting statement has come from the ruling AKP. So it seems like İmamoğlu's victory declaration will be in dispute right now. We'll get to both of these. I'm sorry, I'm very sleepy. We'll get to both Ankara and Istanbul. But before we do that, let's try to paint a more general picture of these elections, of yesterday's local elections. As we all know, these were just local mayoral elections for provinces and districts in Turkey, yet it felt as if it was like a general election, as if it was a national one, which we've actually talked about in the latest episode of This Week in Turkey with you, Edgar. So how do you think the results compare to the previous local elections of 2014? What were some of the big changes that you've observed? And you've reported live from the ground during the pre-election period for Medyascope TV. So it would be interesting to see how you pair the results with your observations.
Actually, comparing the results in today and those in 2014, actually there is definitely a very different picture today. This is not only because AKP is losing in the metropolitan provinces, but also because AKP's strategy in the pre-election period, in the campaigning period, actually caused a very different alliance in the opposition, where the pro-Kurdish HDP successfully came together through CHP with the nationalist Good Party. In some provinces, the supporters of both the HDP, who are mainly the Kurds, actually, and the nationalist Good Party supporters, they voted for the same CHP candidate, which maybe used to be unthinkable 3 years ago or in the previous local election in 2014. And when we look at the maps, when we compare the maps, we see that today, in today's local election, the entire Mediterranean provinces, for example, Antalya, Mersin, Adana, they were all won by the opposition. And, well, we have to admit that HDP votes have been very much significant in these victories for CHP. And also, another big change is what I would describe as a very unexpected touch of the CHP in the Anatolian heartland. So they added Ankara, Kırşehir, Bolu to Eskişehir as the cities they will rule in the coming 5 years. So I think these are the most important changes. And Istanbul is still contested, as you underlined. So if Istanbul will be won by, or has been won, I don't.
We still don't know.
We still don't know. What is clear is that the results are there, but we don't know about them because they don't declare, they don't give us the results. So if Istanbul is also won by the opposition, well, this will be the biggest story of this election, actually.
Can I add as numbers? I mean, CHP, the main opposition, increased the number of city mayoral seats from 14 in the previous elections, local elections in 2014, to 22. And also there was gains for MHP as well, the main partner of the ruling coalition. I mean, they had 8 mayoral seats in the previous elections. Now they have 11, and they are also big city. There is also one big city, metropolitan city in that. As to the HDP, they had 9 mayoral seats in the previous elections. Plus, Ahmet Türk at the time was independent candidate. So maybe we could count it as 10, but this time they lost 2 of them, and now they have 8 municipalities if the results so far won't change. And maybe we can add also Turkey had its first Communist Party candidate win election, and in Tunceli, Turkey Communist Party candidate Fatih Maçoğlu now became the mayor of this city.
Yes.
So somehow this is actually reminiscent of the most recent elections, which weren't local ones, but presidential and parliamentary ones. So the big surprise of the results was with the MHP.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, mathematically speaking, they were the biggest winner as they had significantly increased their vote.
And
it seems like the same has happened.
Yes,
yesterday.
Unexpectedly, they didn't only win in the provinces that were left to them by AKP as a rule of the coalition or the alliance as they take it, but they won in some provinces despite AKP candidates running in those provinces. So it's important, and it's showing us the fact that MHP is actually the main benefiting party of this alliance. And another fact is that in today's polarized structure of society in Turkey, the main address of the ruling AKP supporters is not the opposition parties, but the MHP, which is the ally of AKP. So they actually prefer to be in the secure side and remain in the bloc. So maybe they would describe it as a warning to the ruling party, but it's really interesting because MHP actually had 3 metropolitan cities in the last local elections, which were Manisa, Mersin, and Adana. And this time they lost Adana and Mersin, and only Manisa was won by them. So they have only one metropolitan municipality right now, the MHP. But because they won in so many provinces, actually we can still take MHP as a winning party in these elections.
We will definitely be getting back to these individual cities and districts and how different parties have performed. But before we do that, let's turn to you now, Işın. As the followers of Turkish news will know very well that in the past 17 years, it has become almost a tradition for President Erdogan to speak from a balcony after his election victories. And he has done the same tonight. So what would you say regarding tonight's speech? What were some of the main points?
Though there are obvious setbacks for his ruling party, President Erdogan chose to focus on the full side of the glass, if you wish, and so he focused on the overall vote count and said that they remain the #1 party in Turkey, which is true. That is, he downplayed their election losses. Also, as we mentioned, it was his campaign strategy beforehand as if it is a general election rather than mayoral election. And in his balcony speech, he also spoke as if it's a general election and said that AK Party, his ruling party and its ally MHP together, the People's Alliance, we call it, won almost 52% of the votes. So he compared this vote to the result of the 24 June general election results. So it was general elections. And he hinted that the votes they got are similar. So he kept, the comparison as if it's a general election. Also, he conceded defeat in the capital, Ankara. But as to Istanbul, it is the biggest city of Turkey and maybe the biggest prize, as he put it, who wants Istanbul wants Turkey. He said that even if his party had lost the Istanbul as metropolitan municipality, it had still controlled most of the district municipalities. Even if the opposition held the mayor's office, he said it openly. So, I mean, in a way, tacitly, he accepted defeat. But, of course, he said his party had won 16 big cities. In that count also, at that time, according to the results declared at the time of the speech, does not include Istanbul. But Erdogan said his party would appeal results wherever needed. And now we began to hear that in Ankara, in Istanbul, they will appeal the results. And also in Iğdır, they will go and appeal the results where the HDP won So I think their strategy would be, contesting and the results.
You know what is interesting is that in Iğdır, where HDP has been declared to win, actually, it's the main contender of HDP is MHP. But the declaration comes from Erdogan instead of MHP that they will appeal the results. This is interesting, and I'm not sure if we can really, if we should really take Erdogan's speech as a concession speech, as a speech where he admits they lost in Istanbul. Actually, with what we know so far, we should underline that they will do anything to not to admit that they lost in Istanbul, actually.
Maybe we should put something. This is not politics, but I mean it's related to politics. Maybe we get the results from the official government agency, official Turkish agency, and there's nothing else left after the coup. So we depend on their results, but they didn't declare any results since now I think almost 5 hours. They didn't, so they stopped after
releasing the data.
Yeah, exactly, releasing the data. This is also it's unseen before. I mean, it is, and also will make the public worried about, and maybe after the ruling party will appeal the results, we will have the much more polarized society regarding the results.
Nobody will believe that.
Yeah.
The results. Neither side will believe that the recount will be the best choice. Yes. Yeah.
All right, then let's start wrapping up with by talking about the sort of wider political and social implications of these results. And at this point, I'll turn to you now, Edgar, because you have reported live from the ground for Medyascope TV during the pre-election period. For instance, you went to cities such as Adana and Mersin, the 6th and 11th largest cities in the country, respectively. And both of them were lost by the MHP, a member of the People's Alliance with Erdogan, to the main opposition, CHP. These are striking results. So what do these results, as we see in the example of Adana and Mersin, what do they tell us about what has happened to the voter? How do you explain this change in people's minds?
There are a number of factors that explain these results, actually. But to begin with, I have to say that actually these both cities, I mean, Mersin and Adana, these are not typical cities that would be expected to be ruled by MHP.
Then perhaps we should also pronounce Ankara as the biggest surprise of these elections, as it ended its 25-year conservative rule. And now will be governed by the CHP candidate, Mansur Yavaş, or prospective mayor, let's say.
To add something to that, Ankara was won with nationalist votes, actually. But Erdogan and MHP, their People Alliance, was the biggest representative of nationalism. But, despite this very fact, actually,
the nationalists
voted for Mansur Yavaş, seemingly, that they won in Ankara. But to come back to the Mediterranean provinces of Adana and Mersin, actually, these are not, as I said, typical cities to be ruled by MHP, because these are very cosmopolitan cities, and MHP is in the extreme right position in the political climate in Turkey. And, for example, there are many Kurds living there, many people from different religions, different sects, different ethnic background, etc., etc. And throughout the previous 5 years, the past 5 years actually, there have been many problems in those both provinces in the Mediterranean, because the mayors were even, it was claimed that the mayors had some, let's say, racist practices or attitudes in these cities. So this is the first time that a mayor in Turkey, that such claims came for a mayor, actually. So in those provinces, actually the opposition bloc came together with the CHP. Even the nationalists, Good Party supporters voted for CHP with the Kurdish voters, the HDP supporters. So this have been expected, but still, because the alliance was not as solid as the alliance composed of AKP and MHP supporters, we were not so much sure about the results. But when we look at the results right now, actually, it's very surprising that the alliance of the opposition have remained very solid, and they chose the CHP candidate. So it's surprising for me.
So before we conclude, did you have anything to add, Işın, perhaps about
what we can expect from now on, because it was also in the the Turkey's economy in dire straits now, and so many observers said that these elections are kind of a referendum for Erdogan's presidency. I'm not so sure whether it will be taken like that, and the results still not clear in some big cities. But we should tell that this yesterday's poll was the first municipal elections after the constitutional reforms in 2017, which created the executive presidency that we have now, that gave President Erdogan wide powers to govern. And in his speech, he stressed that he will be governing from now on without any election, 4.5 years in his presidency and with this style. And he said he will keep his alliance with MHP. And also he said that he would take the necessary measures at ministries and institutions to make the system of governance more dynamic, maybe more adapted to this result, which means we might have some revisions in his cabinet and some other reforms, especially for the economical problems. But will they work? And how will they work? We don't know. We have to wait and see.
Thank you very much, Edgar and Işın, for your comments in these very early hours of the day. So tonight, we were joined by Işın Eliçin and Edgar Şar in the studio, and also by Murat Utku, who reported live from the CHP headquarters in Ankara. And as of 5 a.m., 1st of April, the results of Turkey's 2019 local elections for Istanbul still remain unclear. Thanks for watching.